Felix and the representative of the suppliers, Mr. Morgan, were currently in the CEO's office. "I predict that the vice president of the Wyvern Group will come knocking on your door soon," Felix said. As if on cue, Mr. Morgan's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and laughed. "What can I do for you, Miss Jasmine?" "Mr. Morgan, I'm on my way to your office. I would like to talk to you about the price increase." "Sure, I'll be waiting for you." Mr. Morgan ended the call and turned to Felix. "It's exactly like what you said. She'll be here in around half an hour." "What do you think of her?" Felix asked. "She has a beautiful face, curvaceous figure, and a good fashion sense. I'd love to get her in my bed, even if it meant 10 years off my life." Mr. Morgan had set his eyes on Jasmine for a long time, but because of the Wyvern Group's status, he had never had an opportunity to make a move on her. "You can do whatever you want with her, but in return, I'd like to have the final say when you're making decisions regarding your business." Mr. Morgan accepted Felix's offer without hesitation. It was 6 p.m. when Stephen and Jasmine arrived at Mr. Morgan's company. The doorman informed them that Mr. Morgan had already left for the day. Jasmine was annoyed that they had missed him. "It's your fault for driving so slowly. Now that he's off work, it'll be hard to track him down." "Hey, you can't blame me for that. I already passed the speed limit just to get here by 6. What you need is a private helicopter." Jasmine ignored Stephen's blabbering and took her phone out to give Mr. Morgan a call. "Mr. Morgan, where are you?" "Sage Pavilion." "All right, I'll be there shortly." Jasmine hung up and said, "He's grabbing dinner at Sage Pavilion. Drive me there." On account of his increased salary, Stephen was too lazy to argue with her and drove to the restaurant without complaints. Mr. Morgan was displeased when he saw Jasmine entering the private room with a man. "Miss Jasmine, I didn't think you were the type to go around with the secretary." "What are you talking about? He's my driver." "Then tell him to wait outside. It's not appropriate for a driver to sit with people like us while we discuss business matters." Jasmine had been working in this industry for a long time, and she saw through Mr. Morgan's intentions with a single glance. She put on an expressionless face and calmly said, "Mr. Morgan, think about what year it is. In this day and age, there's no such thing as being divided by status. This is Mr. Adams. In addition to being my driver, he's also one of the top executives at the Wyvern Group. The CEO of our company thinks highly of him. It's dinner time, and everyone is hungry. Let's all sit down and have a meal together. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't you agree?" "If that's the case, then have a seat," Mr. Morgan said. It didn't matter if Stephen joined them, because he would get them both drunk by the end of the evening. Mr. Morgan poured a glass of white wine to the brim and gave it to Jasmine. "Miss Jasmine, since you've brought an uninvited guest, why don't you drink 3 glasses of wine as an apology?" "I didn't come here to drink with you. About the increases in prices." Mr. Morgan interrupted her. "Miss Jasmine, don't you know how to treat your clients with respect?" Jasmine instantly grasped the situation. Mr. Morgan wouldn't be talking business unless she drank the wine. "I'm not a fan of alcohol, Mr. Morgan." "I'll drink for her." Stephen took the glass and downed the wine. He poured 2 more glasses and emptied the contents. "Is that enough for you?" "I'm impressed." Mr. Morgan refilled Stephen's glass. "Have another drink." Jasmine was worried when Stephen continued to drink until 10 bottles of wine were empty. "Are you okay, Stephen?" He smiled. "Does it look like I'm not okay?" He had high alcohol tolerance from the special technique that the priests had taught him. It dissolved most of the alcohol, if not all, inside his body. 10 bottles of wine were nothing, and the result would still be the same even if he was forced to drink 100 bottles. Mr. Morgan couldn't understand how Stephen was perfectly fine after drinking so much. He wasn't even tipsy. If he couldn't get Stephen drunk, he wouldn't be able to proceed with his plan. While Mr. Morgan was worrying, Stephen put another bottle in front of him. Mr. Morgan, I've already finished 10 bottles. It's time for you to taste the wine. I'm not good with alcohol. Is that so? Then are you implying you want Miss Jasmine to drink this bottle instead? There's no need to keep pretending. There's something you want, right? Stephen had caught on, so Mr. Morgan had no choice but to reveal his cards. Fine, since you already know, then I'll be straightforward. Miss Jasmine, to tell you the truth, I've fallen for you. If you spend a night with me, I won't increase the prices. Jasmine narrowed her eyes. That's ridiculous. Mr. Morgan gave her a shrug. Of course, you can ignore my offer. If you don't want to cooperate, then our company will stop all production. The popularity of our products has been on the rise. If you stop production, it'll impact our business. Then spend a night with me. If you continue to refuse, I can't guarantee your safety. Stephen found Mr. Morgan's attitude a bit strange. He whispered to Jasmine, Was he like this every time you talked business with him? No, when I first met him, although he was a little rude, he never crossed the line. I'm the vice president of the Wyvern Group. Even if he's not afraid of me, he should at least be cautious of the Wyvern Group. There's probably a reason he's so confident. A group of people barged into the room and surrounded them. What's the meaning of this? Jasmine demanded. These people are combat specialists from Washington, D.C. I can tell that the driver beside you is skilled because he's fine after drinking 10 bottles, but I'm afraid that even he won't be able to do anything against them. Your only way out is to agree to my request. Stephen's eyes darted around the room, pretending to be terrified. Miss Jasmine, why don't you agree to Mr. Morgan's request and we can discuss the details later? Mr. Morgan, I'm sure you've already made preparations. Why don't we head out? Jasmine was in disbelief. Are you serious, Stephen? Mr. Morgan laughed. A wise man submits to his circumstances. Your driver knows how to judge a situation. Stephen gave her a subtle wink. People like us have no choice but to lower our heads. Jasmine got the hint and reluctantly agreed. All right, let's go. That's more like it. There's a hotel next door. I've already booked a room. Let's get going. Stephen followed Jasmine and Mr. Morgan from a distance and dialed Jack's number. He asked Jack to give him all the information he could find on Mr. Morgan, including the places he'd been to and the people he'd met over the past few days. In less than a minute, Jack sent over the requested information. Mr. Morgan's recent meeting with Felix stood out. I was wondering why he was being so bold, so he has the support of the Addams family. Since they're making their move, I can't let them succeed so easily. Jack, make me the new boss of Mr. Morgan's company within 5 minutes. No problem. After giving his instructions, Stephen caught up to Mr. Morgan and Jasmine. At this time, they had just entered the room. Just as Mr. Morgan was about to close the door, Stephen grabbed the handle and swung open the door. What are you doing here? This is none of your business. I think it is. It's normal for a supplier like me to talk business with Miss Jasmine. What nonsense are you talking about? When did you become a supplier? Mr. Morgan's phone rang and interrupted him before he could say anything else. The bank was calling. Your loan is overdue. Because you were unable to pay off the loan within the allocated time, according to regulations, you are no longer the owner of your company. Mr. Addams has purchased your company. As for subsequent follow-up procedures, such as changing the legal representative, we will send someone over to take care of it. Mr. Morgan had taken out a loan to start his company. His business had never done well. It was only when his loan was about to be due that the Wyvern Group's orders soared and sought him out. That was how he'd gotten the bank to agree to extend the loan repayment date. However, even if the bank had agreed to give him an extension, it was a piece of cake for Jack to change their minds. He was the CEO of the Eastern Sea Group, an influential company on the East Coast. It was reasonable for the bank to side with Jack over a small company like Mr. Morgan's. This is a scam, right? Are you trying to swindle me out of my money? Despite Mr. Morgan's doubts, the bank's staff and lawyers soon arrived to deliver the documents. He looked over the official documents and finally understood the company was no longer his. Stephen had spent $1 billion to purchase his company. Mr. Morgan had listed his business as collateral for the loan he'd taken out, and the bank had the right to sell it since he couldn't pay off the loan in time. "I'm the owner now, so I have the final say," Stephen said. He turned to the bank's staff and lawyers. "Head to the company and announce the change in ownership. Help me notify the employees that the staff may remain in the same, except for Mr. Morgan, and tell them if they're able to meet certain production schedules by the end of the month, everyone's salaries will be doubled. As for Mr. Morgan, you haven't been able to pay off your loan, and the amount has reached $100 million. According to the law, you could be sentenced to at least a year and a half in prison." "Well done. The Wyvern Group is tight on supplies. Let's see how they're going to get out of this one," Miller said. "That's not all," Felix said. "The vice president went to look for Mr. Morgan personally. I installed a camera in the hotel room that he booked. We can use the footage and publicize their scandal. The Wyvern Group will be caught up in rumors again, and at that time, we'll create more trouble and drive them to the ground." "Perfect. Let's watch the footage after we get an update from Mr. Morgan." "I'll call him right now." However, Felix was confused when he couldn't get through to Mr. Morgan's phone. It was turned off. "He's probably still with the vice president. He turned off his phone because he didn't want to be disturbed. I'll send him a message and ask for an update. While we're waiting, let's go find Mr. Lucero. After we get rid of the Wyvern Group, Stephen won't have anyone to back him up." Miller and Felix headed to the Wyvern Group to meet with Mr. Lucero. Dennis held back a laugh when he heard what they had to say. "Are you telling me that the vice president of my company slept with her client?" Before Miller and Felix arrived, Stephen had already informed him of the situation. He'd also predicted that they would seek him out. Sure enough, they were here. "I'm kind of curious about that video. Can you show me?" Dennis asked them. Miller and Felix exchanged a glance. Jasmine was the vice president of the Wyvern Group. If she were to cause such a huge scandal, it would be a devastating blow to the company's image. Why was Dennis so calm? "Do you think we're joking around?" Miller asked. "Let me give you some advice. You'd better prepare a backup plan." "Whatever. Take it out and show me if you have it," Dennis said. "All right, let's see how long you can continue being stubborn. Felix, take care of it." Felix gave Mr. Morgan another call, but to his surprise, his phone was still turned off. He decided to call Mr. Morgan's office instead. "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan isn't here. Our boss is Mr. Adams." Miller noticed the confusion on Felix's face. "What happened?" "I can't contact him." "Why don't I enlighten you two?" Dennis suggested. He held out his phone. A news article was on the screen. "Mr. Morgan has been sentenced to at least 1 year in prison for not paying off his loan. I heard that someone who goes by the name of Mr. Adams has purchased his company." Miller recovered from his shock faster than Felix. "Mr. Lucero, don't get ahead of yourself. They didn't reveal the new owner's full name. We only know that his last name is Adams. Of course, the owner has to be one of us." Dennis smiled. "I'm sorry, but the person who purchased the company is Stephen Adams. He's the director of the security department at the Wyvern Group." Miller and Felix were stunned. "Your Wyvern Group bought the company?" If this was true, then their plan to cut off the Wyvern Group's supply chain had failed. With nothing else up their sleeve, Miller and Felix left the building. Felix gritted his teeth. "We can't just watch as the Wyvern Group expands." "Do you have any other ideas?" Miller asked. "The supplier isn't one of our options anymore, so let's switch gears and target the transportation route. The Wyvern Group has received a huge order, and the equipment used to produce the goods will have to be transported out of Santa Ana to their factory," Felix replied. "You're right. We'll try to intercept them halfway and prevent the shipment from reaching the factory. But I don't think we have the necessary resources to intercept such a large batch. And if we brazenly sent people to intercept them, wouldn't that be giving away our identities? Don't worry, Dad. I know someone in Santa Ana who specializes in large-scale thefts. His nickname is Eddie. We can ask him to take on this job. I've heard about him. They say he runs a company that gives out loans with high interest. He hasn't been caught for the past few decades, but I heard his fee is quite high. If we can get rid of the Wyvern Group, the money will be worth it, Felix said. While Miller and Felix went to find Eddie, Stephen was overseeing the supplier's employees loading the shipment onto the trucks. Although the current supply was far from enough, the customers were awaiting their orders. To resolve this issue, Stephen proposed to send out the first batch of equipment to get the production started. Trucks were parked near the supplier's factory and were being loaded in an orderly fashion. While the goods were being loaded, Stephen went to the bathroom and called in the commander of the local operations area. Are the troops ready? Yes, we'll safely transport this batch of equipment to the Wyvern Group's factory. All right, I'll leave it to you. Before leaving the city, the trucks made a stop at Santa Ana's military base. They would be escorted by a group of heavily armed soldiers. At Grazing Corporation, Miller entered the CEO's office to inform Felix that the supplier had sent the first batch of equipment to the Wyvern Group's factory. They're on their way out of the city, and our people have marked their routes. Great, I'll tell Eddie, Felix said. After receiving Felix's message, Eddie gathered all of his subordinates. Felix had given him $1 million as compensation, so completing this job was imperative. We've snagged a huge deal. Keep your guard up. They said that our methods don't matter. As long as we succeed in intimidating them and stopping the transport, we can get a little violent. Eddie and his underlings split into two groups. Based on the transportation route from Felix, Eddie chose a highway at the border to wait for the trucks. It was in a remote location, and they were surrounded by mountains. Few people passed by here. The terrain was harsh, and it was an ideal location for a successful robbery. Eddie ordered his underlings to wait at the back of a hill for an ambush and sent 2 of them up to the top to scout. Eddie sat comfortably in his car, snacking on melon seeds. Sometime later, his subordinate ran over to report that the trucks had arrived. Eddie looked around and spotted the trucks on the bumpy road ahead. The back of the truck was covered in black cloth with the words Wyvern Group Transportation written on the front. Eddie signaled to his subordinates. They're here. Let's follow them. They sped after the line of trucks and screeched to a stop in front of the first truck. More than 10 people stepped out of the cars with iron rods in their hands. Eddie took the lead. He swung his rod at the door of the truck. Get out here! The door opened, and the transport officer glared at Eddie and his group. What are you trying to do? Can't you tell? Eddie waved the iron rod in his hand. I'm robbing you. We want all the goods in your truck. These goods belong to the Wyvern Group. Doesn't matter. I'll take what I want. Eddie's subordinates surrounded the trucks, and a few of them untied the black cloth. The trucks were loaded with equipment. Boss, everything's here. Not a single one is missing. Eddie examined the goods with a grin. This much equipment must be worth a lot of money. Did you finish checking all of the trucks? Not yet. His subordinate pointed at the last truck. The truck at the back is a bit strange. It doesn't look like the others. Maybe there are valuables inside. Let's go take a look. Eddie walked towards the last truck, accompanied by his underlings. The traffic officer quickly got out of the truck and ran over to try and talk Eddie out of it. That last truck isn't loaded. It's full of people. Do you really want to check it out? Eddie pushed him away. Are there beautiful women on that truck? Are you afraid of me laying my eyes on them? The more you don't want me to check, the more I want to do just that. Eddie walked up to the last truck. Because of the black cloth, he couldn't see what was at the back. Everyone in the truck, listen up. Get out here, Eddie shouted. There was no movement. Eddie called out again, but there was still no response. Damn, it's like I don't exist. He waved to his subordinates. Take off the cloth. I want to see just who's hiding inside. When the cloth was half unraveled, his subordinates stumbled back in fright. Eddie froze. Several rifles were aimed right at them. The leader of the soldiers jumped out of the truck and stepped in front of Eddie. Are you the one who told us to get out? Aye. Eddie's voice trembled. The man in front of him was a soldier. Even if he had 9 lives, he would never clash with the army. No wonder Felix had been so generous. He'd given him $1 million to make him and his lackeys into punching bags. Who would dare rob transport trucks that were being escorted by armed soldiers? We're responsible for the local operations of the city. We're here on orders to escort this shipment from the Wyvern Group. Whoever impedes our work will be considered obstructing the military's duties. Sir, this is a misunderstanding, Eddie stammered. Misunderstanding, you say? The soldier motioned to his subordinates. Capture them. The soldiers in the truck jumped down and restrained Eddie and his subordinates. All of them were holding iron rods, but their weapons paled in comparison to guns. Eddie and his underlings were rounded up, loaded onto one of the trucks, and sent back to Santa Ana's police station. After Eddie and his subordinates were brought back to Santa Ana, there were no more hindrances on the road as the trucks proceeded to the factory. As for Miller and Felix, they paid another visit to the Wyvern Group. You two really are persistent. Are you here to expose my scandalous video this time? Dennis asked. Mr. Lucero, I'll get straight to the point. We know that the Wyvern Group has a shipment scheduled for today, but I'm afraid that the goods won't reach their destination, Miller said. Please elaborate. We blocked their path. And? As long as you agree to our conditions, we'll return the goods to you. What we want is simple. 50% of the Wyvern Group's shares, Miller said. The shipment is worth $100 million. The Wyvern Group's market value has surpassed $10 billion, and 5% is already over $5 billion. But you want to negotiate $100 million worth of goods for billions of dollars worth of shares? Dennis replied. Then don't even think about seeing your equipment again. Without that batch, I'd like to see how you plan on completing your orders. No one said our equipment didn't make it, Dennis said calmly. He pulled out his phone and played live footage of the Wyvern Group's factory not too far away from the city. He pointed to an empty parking lot on the screen. Miller and Felix exchanged a confused glance. Nothing happened, but in the next second, the trucks loaded with equipment entered the factory. Miller looked at Felix. What's going on? Felix took out his phone and gave Eddie a call, but his phone was turned off. Once again, with no other tricks up their sleeve, they left the Wyvern Group. Later, Felix discovered from various sources that the Wyvern Group's equipment had been sent to Santa Ana's military base to be inspected before shipment. Then, a group of soldiers escorted the trucks to the factory outside of the city. The Wyvern Group got lucky this time. They found a military factory for inspection. If we can't get rid of them, it'll be too difficult to deal with Stephen. Miller sighed. Even a genius like Austin couldn't do anything to Stephen. He even announced his retirement. There's a high chance that the Wyvern Group is behind this. I heard that Mr. Lucero is protective of his employees. But then again, the owner of the company and Mr. Lucero himself are all very secretive. They rarely show up at the company because their employees take care of everything. It's not going to be easy to deal with them. I don't believe that the Wyvern Group is invincible, Felix said. He browsed the personal information of the higher-ups of the Wyvern Group on his computer. He stopped scrolling when he got to Jasmine's profile. The vice president dated someone for 3 years when she was abroad, but they broke up before she came back to Santa Ana. A sudden flash of inspiration hit him. Felix searched for information on Jasmine's ex-boyfriend and put his plan into motion. After the supplier issue was taken care of, Jasmine asked Stephen if she could treat him to a meal. She wanted to thank him for driving her to Sage Pavilion and resolving the situation with Mr. Morgan. She also had a question for him. "Sure, but Kim will be coming with us," Stephen said. "I didn't think you cared about that kind of thing," Jasmine teased. No wonder Kim didn't want to let him go. It turned out that Stephen was actually really loyal. "Why? Did you fall for me?" Stephen asked. "That's ridiculous. The only man that can make my heart flutter is the owner of the Wyvern Group." "I'm the owner," Stephen said seriously. Jasmine scoffed. Who would believe that? After a pause, she asked the question that she'd been wondering about all day. "Stephen, how did you purchase Mr. Morgan's company? Where did you get that much money?" "Didn't I tell you already? I'm the owner." This time, Jasmine was slightly shaken. "Are you really?" After all, that was a $1 billion purchase. Not just anyone could have bought Mr. Morgan's company in such a short period of time. While Jasmine was trying to make sense of it, she received a text and frowned. "I almost believed your nonsense. Annika just sent me a message saying that $1 billion in the company's accounts were used. You were able to purchase Mr. Morgan's company because the owner instructed you to. You're just the middleman who follows orders. That means the owner is the one who resolved this issue." Stephen didn't care if Jasmine believed him or not. This wasn't the right time to expose his identity anyway. "You still want me to treat you to a meal? Forget it. Let's leave," Jasmine said. "We're already here. Besides, Kim will be here soon. Why don't we just eat together? If you really don't want to pay, I'll foot the bill." That was enough to convince Jasmine to stay. They were interrupted when her phone rang. Her expression changed when she glanced at the caller ID. "I'm going out to take this call." Jasmine left the restaurant and looked around. When she confirmed that there was no one around, she answered the call. "I was beginning to think you weren't going to pick up. You've become cocky now that you're the vice president of the Wyvern Group. Should I call you Jasmine like good old times, or Miss Jasmine?" "Tom, we've already broken up. Don't call me again." "Yes, we did break up, but we did spend 3 years together. Did our love not mean anything to you? How are you letting go so easily?" "Are you calling because you want to get back together? Forget it. It's not happening." When Jasmine was living abroad, she had dated Tom for 3 years. For the most part, the relationship could be considered stable. However, one day, she walked in on Tom being intimate with another woman. After some investigation, it was revealed that this wasn't the first time. It was a frequent occurrence. That was how their 3-year relationship came to an abrupt end. But Tom was persistent. He didn't want to let her go. To stop him from pestering her, she gave him $30,000 in exchange for him getting out of her life. "I know it's impossible for us to be together again, but the reason I called was that I used up the $30,000 you gave me," Tom said. "What does that have to do with me? You took the $30,000, so we have nothing to do with each other." "Miss Jasmine, a $30,000 separation fee is too little. I think—" Jasmine cut him off. "Don't even think about it. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." "Wait. If you hang up now, you'll regret it." "No, I won't." "I still have pictures of you," Tom said quickly. "If I post them online, what do you think would happen?" When they were still dating, they took many pictures together. Among them were bikini photos. At that time, Jasmine didn't think much of it because she thought that they would eventually marry and settle down together. She didn't expect him to be such an asshole and use them against her after all this time. Jasmine received a text message notification while she was still on the line. She opened up the message and saw that it was one of her bikini photos. It was obvious that Tom was afraid that she might think he was lying, so he'd sent her one of the photos as proof. If Tom had one photo in his possession, that meant he had the rest as well. Jasmine wasn't that concerned about the content of the photos. She looked good, but the problem was that she'd revealed a good amount of skin. If those photos were released on the internet, it would affect her reputation. She was the vice president of the Wyvern Group, and she was well known in the city. These photos could negatively impact her future career. Jasmine held in her anger and said, "How much do you want?" "10 billion. Are you crazy? Do you think I'm the richest woman in the world? Even the Wyvern Group's market value is only 10 billion. You might as well be asking for the company." "I heard that you're in charge of running the company. Why don't you transfer the Wyvern Group to Grazing Corporation? If you do that, I won't ask for 10 billion. "Are you working for the Addams family?" "That's right. The Addams family is powerful. They're stronger than your Wyvern Group. If you agree to my request, I won't leak your photos." "I don't have the authority to do that," Jasmine said. "You do. You're the vice president. Before anyone notices, you can make it happen. It's not that hard. The only question is, do you have the courage?" Tom asked. Jasmine was rendered speechless. Tom was more of a bastard than she'd originally thought. She couldn't refuse right off the bat because he might release the photos after their call. It would be better to make him think that she needed time to consider his offer seriously. "This is a big decision. I need to think it over. If I make a single mistake, it's over for me. I'll have to come up with a game plan," Jasmine said. "Okay, I'll wait for your good news. But until then, I've been short on cash lately. Lend me some money," Tom replied. "How much do you want?" "Not much. Just give me $15,000. $15,000 is not a small amount. I need to go to the bank for the transfer." "All right, I'll be waiting." Jasmine leaned against the wall in a daze after ending the call. After composing herself, she went back inside the restaurant. Kim was already at the table. "You don't look so good. Did something happen?" Kim asked worriedly. Jasmine forced a smile. "No, I'm fine. Maybe I ate too much." Stephen pointed at the table. "Really? But our dishes haven't been served yet. You weren't even gone for that long. When did you have the time to eat?" He glanced in the direction of the bathroom. Jasmine rolled her eyes. "What kind of disgusting things are you thinking about? Why would I eat in there?" Stephen shrugged. "How would I know?" After the phone call with Tom, Jasmine wasn't in the mood for conversation, nor did she have an appetite. She barely touched any of the dishes on the table. When Jasmine wasn't paying attention, Kim whispered to Stephen, "Something must have happened. Let's drive her home and talk about it." "Okay," Stephen said. After accompanying Jasmine to her house, Kim and Stephen walked home. On the way back, Kim brought up Jasmine again. "I think she's worrying about something. Pay attention when you go to work tomorrow." "She seemed okay to me. Before you came, she was as lively as ever. Maybe she's just having mood swings," Stephen replied. Kim was not amused by his joke. When Stephen went to work the next day, he asked Dennis to observe Jasmine. During a meeting with upper management, Jasmine brought the wrong documents. She even blanked out when someone asked her for her opinion. She was distracted while she was giving Dennis an update. She forgot about what her assistant had told her a few minutes ago, and she walked around the company in a daze. She even bumped into her colleagues a few times. Later that morning, Dennis gave his report to Stephen in the CEO's office. Jasmine wasn't acting like herself today. She was low-spirited compared to her usual upbeat personality. The employees have been gossiping about her. They think she's in a relationship. I wonder what kind of man got her so down. "She's not in a relationship. I have a feeling she's in trouble," Stephen said. "Jasmine is the vice president. If she's in trouble, that means our company will be in trouble soon," Dennis replied. "Well, let's find out." Stephen gave Jack a call and asked him to investigate Jasmine's activities for the past 3 days. In less than a minute, Jack sent him a detailed message. Stephen looked over the information. "She's being threatened by her ex-boyfriend. Dennis, you're not up to much these days. Why don't we resolve this with your fists?" Dennis agreed in a heartbeat. "That's my forte." Jack sent Tom's current location to Stephen. At this time, Tom was at his rented apartment. He was on the phone with Felix. "I've done as you asked. She's making preparations."
"Well done. I'll be sure to reward you after this is over."
"Thank you, Mr. Felix." After ending the call, his phone rang again. It was Jasmine.
"I'll do it, but I want to discuss this with the Addams family. I'll send you the location of the restaurant. I'll see them at 2 o'clock.
"If you were going to give in so easily, why did you have to waste my time?" "All right, I'll tell him right now," Tom replied. Tom hung up and gave Felix another call. Meanwhile, Stephen and Dennis had arrived. They stood outside his apartment. "Is this the room?" Dennis asked. "Yeah, Jack's information can't be wrong." Dennis grinned. "Be prepared to be blown away by my performance." Tom, who had just ended the call with Felix, was startled when his door was kicked down. Two people stood at the doorway. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Dennis walked in front of him. "Are you Tom?" Tom was confused when he knew his name. "May I ask who you are?" "You're not qualified to know our identities. Give us the photos you have of Miss Jasmine." "Who's that? What photos? I don't know what you're talking about." Stephen walked over. "Stop putting on an act. Miss Jasmine is your ex-girlfriend. Tom, I suggest you stop pretending. My friend here is a prison warden. He knows 108 kinds of torture methods. He'll make sure you wish you were dead." Dennis brought out a set of tools. "How does the first method sound?" He pulled out a dagger with a smile. "You'll be chopped into pieces. More specifically, I'll be making 10,000 cuts. Your fate will be worse than death. What's your answer?" Tom panicked when the dagger inched closer to his neck. "I'll give it to you," he exclaimed. Tom took out his phone and deleted all the bikini photos he had of Jasmine in front of Stephen and Dennis. "You didn't leave anything out, did you?" Stephen asked. "No, definitely not." Dennis spun the dagger in his hand. "I don't think he's telling the truth. Why don't we just get rid of him? That would solve everything." Tom begged them to spare him. "Please don't kill me." "What a shame. It's too late for that." The dagger flashed in front of Tom's eyes. A cold breeze brushed against his neck before the world went black. Tom's phone clattered to the floor. It was sliced in half. Dennis intended to destroy his phone, but Tom misunderstood that he wanted to kill him. Dennis looked down at Tom, who was sprawled on the floor. "Did he pass out? I didn't even do anything. How should we deal with him?" "Hand him over to the police," Stephen said. "He threatened the vice president of the Wyvern Group for $10 billion. That should be considered extortion. He could get 8 or 10 years in jail." Jasmine had been waiting at the restaurant since noon. She was so anxious that she emptied one cup of tea after another. She'd gone to the bathroom several times within 30 minutes. Miller and Felix arrived at 2 o'clock sharp. Felix was all smiles when he greeted her. "Miss Jasmine, it's a pleasure to meet you. You're beautiful." Jasmine ignored his inappropriate comment. "Let's get down to business." "All right. I'm sure your ex-boyfriend has already told you what we want." Felix rummaged through his briefcase and took out a stack of documents. He pushed them towards Jasmine. "These are the documents you'll need for the transfer. We've prepared them for you. Once you stamp your seal, the transfer will be complete. Miss Jasmine, please take out the Wyvern Group's official seal." "I don't have it with me," Jasmine said. Miller dropped all pretenses. "You didn't bring it. You invited us here, and we already prepared everything for you. Now you're telling us that you didn't bring the seal? Are you playing around with us?" "Yes, we are." The three of them turned around in surprise. Stephen walked up to them and picked up the documents. "When did we say that we would give up the Wyvern Group? Our company is worth over $10 billion. We can't hand it over that easily." Jasmine was at a loss for words, trying to figure out how Stephen had found out about this. "Stephen, You're only a security guard. This is none of your business, Felix shot back. You're right. It's not my place. Stephen turned to Jasmine. Miss Jasmine, what would happen if Mr. Lucero or the owner found out that you betrayed the Wyvern Group? Miller cut in. Why does that matter? After the Wyvern Group belongs to us, we'll take her in. What can Mr. Lucero or the owner do about it? Stephen ignored him. Miss Jasmine, are you sure you want to do this? I'm sorry, Stephen. I didn't have a choice. Jasmine had invited Miller and Felix to the restaurant in hopes to buy time to come up with a countermeasure. Tom was fickle, and she couldn't trust him. While she hadn't planned to transfer the Wyvern Group to Grazing Corporation, it was a fact that had crossed her mind. Felix added fuel to the fire. If Miss Jasmine refuses, her ex-boyfriend will publicize her photos. She's an ambitious woman. Her future will be ruined. Photos? Unfortunately, they don't exist anymore. Stephen had already instructed the palace's expert hackers to erase all traces of Jasmine's photos. If you're curious about Miss Jasmine's ex-boyfriend, take a look for yourselves. He held out his phone and played a video. Tom was sitting in a police car with handcuffs on his wrists. There was a dejected look on his face. Tom was sentenced to 10 years in prison for extortion, Stephen explained. Just as Jasmine was about to say something, Stephen interrupted her. You don't have to rush to thank me. I only did what I should. Jasmine was at a loss. When did she rush to thank him? Stephen glanced at the father and son duo. As for you, Miller and Felix, persuading Tom to blackmail Miss Jasmine is a serious crime. Felix scoffed. That's not enough to scare us. You don't have evidence. What can you do? Miller echoed. All right, let's put this aside for now. 6 years ago, the Addams family kicked me out and chased after me. You two almost forced me to my death. Nico was one of the few people who I was close to in the family, and he became your target to help me get away. He died because of you two. I'll give you half a month to reflect on your mistakes. Go to Nico's grave and repent. Otherwise, you'll end up like this table. Stephen slammed his hand on the table, and it shattered instantly. Felix and Miller couldn't tear their gazes away from the broken table. Stephen was much stronger compared to 6 years ago. It would be an easy task for him to kill them. Stephen turned to Jasmine. She had an astonished look on her face. Miss Jasmine, are we not leaving yet? Jasmine snapped out of her shock. No, we are. Let's go. Felix and Miller watched Stephen and Jasmine walk out of the private room at the restaurant. It looks like the expert at the Wyvern Group has been training Stephen. His martial arts are completely different from back then. No wonder Benedict lost all of his assets and ran back to Washington, D.C. It won't be easy to deal with Stephen or the Wyvern Group. We can't just sit here and wait for our deaths. It's time to invite that person to Santa Ana, Felix said. That person? Miller paused. Hold on. You want to ask the head of the family to come to Santa Ana and personally take care of Stephen and the Wyvern Group? No, of course not. Stephen may have gotten stronger and we're not able to deal with him ourselves, but we don't need the family to step in. If we ask them for help, wouldn't that be admitting that we're incompetent? Then are you talking about Neil Brandt? Felix finished. Miller sucked in a breath. I heard he's training in seclusion for decades. He hasn't shown himself since then. Yes, that's him. Once he makes his move, Santa Ana will be turned upside down. Neil Brandt was famous in Washington, D.C. His martial arts were invincible, and he had the Four Vajra under his command. Many years ago, the Four Vajra had pledged their allegiance to Neil. Each Vajra has a different specialty. The first three specialized in speed, strength, and poison, respectively. The last Vajra looked no different from an ordinary person, but they were the strongest out of the four. If the strength of the twin ghosts under Benedict's command were compared to an elephant, then the strength of Neil's Vajra could be compared to a whale. The twin ghosts were no match for the Vajra. They were a testament to Neil's terrifying strength. "There's no time to lose," Felix said. "We should hurry back to Washington, D.C. and look for Neil before half a month is up. We'll be sitting ducks if we stay here without a plan." Stephen demonstrated his strength today, and from that, it's obvious that Stephen, Mr. Lucero, and the owner of the Wyvern Group have been holding back. They could have gotten rid of us at any time. And so, Miller and Felix boarded a plane back to Washington, D.C. that very night. There was a cave deep in the mountains some distance away from the city. For the past 30 years, Neil had been training in seclusion in a house located inside the cave. Even though he hadn't shown himself in public for a long time, no one doubted his strength. Neil's adopted son, Trevor Brandt, stood guard outside. Whether it was people, wild beasts, birds, or insects, nothing dared to step foot 10 miles within the cave. When Miller and Felix found the location of the cave, they greeted Trevor respectfully. "What business do you have with my father?" "We would like to meet with Mr. Neil," Miller said. "He's been inside for 30 years, and no one knows when he'll be out. For the time being, don't disturb him. You may meet with him when his training is complete." "It's an emergency. If Mr. Neil doesn't intervene, the Addams family will be ruined." "Are you sure about that?" Trevor asked doubtfully. "Santa Ana's market is empty, and the Addams family is in an ideal position to take over. It won't be hard for you to get your share of the spoils." Although Trevor had accompanied Neil into seclusion, he was still up to date with the recent events concerning the outside world. "Have you heard about the Wyvern Group?" Miller asked. "The company that forced Benedict out of Santa Ana? I heard they're the reason why Benedict lost billions of assets in order to save his life. No one knows the true identities of Mr. Lucero and the owner of the Wyvern Group. But no matter how mysterious they are, they're no match for my father." "Yeah, that's them," Felix said. "Do you think your father will come out of seclusion to help us get back at the Wyvern Group?" "Well, I don't know. I'll have to ask." Trevor headed deeper into the cave. Sometime later, he emerged. Miller and Felix were anticipating his answer. "How did it go?" "You two are lucky. His training is almost complete. He'll be leaving the cave in 3 days and personally making a trip to Santa Ana to get rid of the Wyvern Group." Meanwhile, Stephen was in Jasmine's office at the Wyvern Group. "If it weren't for you, my life would have been ruined. Thank you, Stephen," Jasmine said sincerely. Stephen chuckled. "How do you plan on thanking me? Another raise, perhaps? More vacation days?" Jasmine rolled her eyes. "That's not up to me. Anyways, recently, the company has been developing its media and entertainment department. We're planning on venturing into the entertainment industry, and they're looking to recruit a group of interns. I'm sending you to be in charge of it." Stephen heaved a sigh. "This isn't thanking me. You're giving me work to do." "Do you not have a brain? You can't even recognize my act of kindness," Jasmine muttered. The more she interacted with Stephen, the more she realized that he was actually a nice person. He was also quick-witted and capable. He'd gotten her out of sticky situations several times now, and her impression of him had changed drastically. There happened to be a managerial position available recently, and Jasmine thought Stephen would be the best person suited for the job. It would also be a way for him to gain experience for future promotion. Stephen pretended like he didn't hear her. "What did you say?" "Never mind. If you don't want this opportunity, I'll give it to someone else." An idea crossed Jasmine's mind. "We chose to recruit interns at this specific time because Tanith Corporation has just announced that they'll be releasing 10 movies. Most of the arrangements, including the main actor and actresses, have already been made, but they have yet to recruit enough supporting actors. Whoever can resolve this issue for Tanith Corporation, I'm positive that the CEO, Kim Cassidy, will have a whole new level of respect for them." Stephen's interest piqued. "Are you helping Tanith Corporation recruit actors for their upcoming movies?" "What else would we be doing? Why do you think our company invested $1 billion into Tanith Corporation? If the movies do well after they're released, the box office dividends will be enough for us to earn back our investment. Whoever takes on this job will win the approval of our company's owner. And as a bonus, Kim's concerns will be resolved. There are no downsides. All right, I'll take the job, Stephen said. Jasmine broke into a grin. Is that your final decision? I heard someone complaining just now. Stephen cleared his throat awkwardly. When did I complain? Jasmine laughed. Stephen went to Santa Ana's Film Academy and interviewed the candidates. Many people signed up because they were under pressure to find a job after graduation. Stephen decided on the actors after 3 consecutive auditions showcasing various sides of their acting ability. After the contracts were signed, he planned to have them hone their acting for a while before sending them to Tanith Corporation. At Tanith Corporation, Kim was also busy with the media and entertainment department. Compared to the Wyvern Group, this was their company's core business. After getting Tanith Corporation back on track, Kim was ready for the next step. She and the director of the media and entertainment department had a meeting and finalized the details of the project. The investment for each movie would be $50 million. They would be producing 10 movies, so the total investment amounted to $500 million. This was half of the $1 billion investment from the Wyvern Group. Many big entertainment companies invested several hundred million into their movies. However, the quality of their movies was on par with Tanith Corporation. To be able to set a budget of $50 million per movie was already an incredible feat. The reason they were able to achieve this budget was that the leading actor and actresses of these movies were very popular online. Some of them even had millions of fans. Taking into account the estimated revenue from their popularity, the real cost of each movie was only $5 million. The male protagonist, Jake, had quite a large fan base. Whenever he appeared in public, countless fans would chase after him. Despite his popularity, the film crew didn't think his acting skills were that great. Today, Kim had personally come to the site to check on the progress. The filming crew was in the middle of an intense performance. The male and female protagonists were delivering their assigned lines. Kim's arrival attracted many gazes. She was young and pretty, and she carried herself in a confident manner that made people think she was an actress. Jake was drawn to her the moment he laid eyes on her. Was she one of the supporting actresses? He had never seen her before. The female lead, Michelle, was also pretty, but he was tired of her after filming together every day. He had gotten desensitized to her beauty. This new actress's appearance was like a breath of fresh air. Jake was taking a break after getting his lines wrong. He asked his assistant, who was holding an umbrella to shield him from the sun, who that actress was. Michelle bristled like she was facing her mortal enemy. What are you thinking? That's the new CEO of Tanith Corporation, Kim Cassidy. She's not an actress, and she's married. Unlike Jake, Michelle paid attention to the changes in Tanith Corporation's upper management. That was how she'd recognized Kim. The film crew wanted to garner attention for their movie by staging a relationship between Jake and Michelle. They had slept together on the first day they started filming, but Jake never publicized their relationship. Sometimes he would even deliberately avoid her. Michelle was the female lead, and she had quite a number of fans, but her influence was weak compared to his. Michelle had been looking forward to their relationship, so she was anxious when Kim showed up. It had been some time since Michelle and Jake first met each other, so she knew what kind of person he was. He was the type who played around. So, she's the CEO of Tanith Corporation. I didn't think that our new boss would be pretty and rich. She's perfect. I'd love to get to know her. Jake left Michelle behind and went up to strike up a conversation with Kim. Hello, Miss Kim. I'm Jake. Kim was asking the director about the movie's progress when someone called out to her. She turned around and saw a young man standing behind her. Kim wasn't familiar with him, or any of the other actors and actresses here today. She'd never been interested in celebrities. Miss Kim, this is Jake. He's the leading actor for the movie we're filming today, the director said. It's a pleasure to meet you. Jake held out his hand for a handshake. Kim shook his hand. Nice to meet you. Jake was somewhat disappointed that Kim was married, but that wasn't a big deal. Married women had a different kind of charm that single girls didn't have. It made Kim even more enticing. Jack had risen to fame after debuting 3 years ago, and he'd gone to bed with many of his colleagues, including his female assistant, makeup artists, actresses, fashion designers, and others. He'd slept with all of them before. With his handsome face, even female fans weren't an exception. Due to his line of work, Jake had often come in contact with female business owners. Many ladies took a fancy to him and invited him home after a meal. Jack never refused, not even when the women weren't his type. As long as they gave him what he wanted, like benefits, job opportunities, or monetary compensation, he was fine with it. He'd relied on his good looks and intimate connections with wealthy ladies to rise up the ranks. That was how an amateur actor with no acting skills had amassed hundreds of millions of fans in just 3 years. In the eyes of the wealthy ladies he'd slept with, Jake was nothing more than a plaything. To Jake, Kim had already become his target. Not only was she young and beautiful, but she was also worth billions. The CEO of Tanith Corporation was the most beautiful woman he'd ever come across ever since he'd become an actor. Who knows? After spending a night with her, maybe she would divorce her husband and get together with him. Then her money would be his to spend. Miss Kim, you've achieved a lot for your age. You're only in your 20s, but you're already a CEO, and you're even planning on releasing 10 hit movies. Thank you. The reason these movies have gotten so much attention is because of all of you. Don't worry, Miss Kim. We'll work hard. The director walked closer and spoke in a low voice. Based on the feedback we received from the advertising department, the fans' reactions are overwhelmingly positive. Jake is one of the main reasons. Our movies haven't been released yet, but he's been advertising on online platforms to grab the fans' attention. He did a great job promoting our movies. Kim was pleased to hear this. The better the initial publicity, the more anticipation when the movie was released. With the help of Jake's promotions, she believed that the movies would be a hit. After giving it some thought, Kim turned to Jake. I've heard about what you've done for our movies. If you have any questions, feel free to ask the director. If it's something our company is capable of, we'll do our best to fulfill them. Kim was aware of the unspoken rules in the entertainment industry. If one wanted to earn money, one had to treat the main actors and actresses well. The better the treatment and respect, the better their performances would be. After all, they were the stars of the movies. Thank you, Miss Kim. You're being too kind. Hearing Jake's modest reply, Kim's impression of him improved. She didn't follow celebrities on social media or TV, but she had heard rumors that many were arrogant, hot-tempered, and pretentious. Speaking of requests, I have some ideas on how to improve the films. If you have time in the evening, I would like to invite you to a meal to discuss this in detail. Kim hesitated. Although Jake was the leading actor, it didn't seem appropriate for him to invite his boss to dinner during their first meeting. The director whispered, Miss Kim, I think you should agree to his request. His agency has a lot of influence. Think about it. 3 years ago, Jake was a novice actor who just started his career. In only a few years, he has hundreds of millions of fans. For this to be possible, their management team must be extraordinary. Kim thought it over. All right, I accept. I may be the CEO, but when it comes to the entertainment industry, I'm still a beginner. I'd like to receive the guidance of an expert like yourself, Jake. It would benefit the future development of our company. Jake suppressed a smile. He'd come over to see if he could hook up with Kim, but he didn't expect it to be so easy. Jake, why are you still here? Everyone's waiting for you. Michelle ran over and glared at Kim. Miss Kim, we're currently filming a movie. As the CEO, is it really all right for you to interrupt us? Michelle had been quietly watching Jake and Kim chatting happily, but when they made dinner plans, she could no longer sit still. Everyone was stunned. What was going on with Michelle? She knew that Kim was the CEO. How could she reprimand her in public? The director quickly intervened. She's not interrupting our work. This is Miss Kim, the CEO of Tanith Corporation. Jake was annoyed when Michelle deliberately came over to disturb them. Do you not know how to show respect? Where's your professionalism? Michelle felt wronged when so many people spoke up for Kim. She was the female lead, but Jake wasn't interested in her. Michelle was already 30 years old, and once an actress passed this age, there would be fewer opportunities for her to play the female lead. She wasn't the most talented actress, but even an A-list female celebrity would find it difficult to snag a leading role after the age of 30. If they decided to continue with their acting career, they would most likely shift to mother or aunt roles. In addition, there weren't many young actors in their 20s lining up to be the female lead in the market. Michelle could only stay silent after being scolded by the director and Jake. Kim spoke up for Michelle. It's fine, she's right. I've delayed your filming schedule. Michelle takes her work seriously, and other actors can learn a thing or two from her. The director changed his attitude almost immediately. Yes, you're right, Miss Kim. I'm just here to see how things are coming along. Since you're busy filming, I won't hold you up. Jake, I'll be there for dinner, Kim said with a smile. Jake was anticipating their meal tonight. As for Michelle, even though Kim had defended her, she was still unhappy. She knew exactly what kind of a trash person Jake was. He definitely didn't have good intentions when he asked Kim out for dinner. Because of Jake's status and position, Michelle had always been in a disadvantageous position. Despite his personality, she liked him a lot, so she was hostile to the women that he'd wanted to hook up with. As the day went on, Jake's mind was filled with thoughts of Kim, while Michelle's mind was filled with thoughts of him. Neither of them were in the mood to film. Their acting was average. It could even be described as subpar. But there was no way around it. Jake's fans had reached over 100 million, and the movie was steadily gaining popularity as the days went by. In addition, Michelle's beautiful appearance and curvaceous body attracted many male fans. No matter how bad their acting was, or how bad the movie would turn out, the director couldn't question them. Today's performance was especially bad, and the director was very dissatisfied. He could tell that both Jake and Michelle had no motivation to film, but they were both popular celebrities, and he couldn't ask them for a retake. The director could only complain to the producer. I don't understand why Jake doesn't give it his all during filming. Doesn't he care about his image or his fans? The producer laughed. You're only saying this because it's me. You can't tell Jake this to his face, or else he'll drop out of the movie. The director sighed. Yeah, I know. I'm the director, but I can't get on his bad side. I hope his large fan base makes up for his terrible acting. These days, fans are all about looks and money. They don't care about actual talent. Until recently, after the day's filming concluded, Jake would head to a hotel with Michelle. Today, he left her behind and went back to his hotel to prepare for his evening with Kim. As for Kim, after she got off work, she headed straight to the restaurant. She was looking forward to learning from Jake's experience as an actor and receiving advice and tips from his management team. When Kim arrived at the restaurant, she saw Jake's assistant, but not Jake himself. Miss Kim, I'm very sorry. Jake's very busy these days, she explained. He filmed for an entire day, and he had to attend an event right after. He returned to his hotel after the party, but he needed to make a few business calls. If you don't mind, why don't you go to the hotel and look for him? His team is also there. They would love to have you join. All right, I'll be there. Even though Jake was staying at that hotel, Kim wasn't that concerned because his management team would also be joining them. Jake was a famous celebrity, and he wouldn't do something that would damage his reputation. Unfortunately, she was wrong. Jake and his management team were of the same mind. The management team wasn't afraid of ruining his reputation. It was more important to give him what he wanted. Jake was famous, and it didn't matter what scandals he was caught up in. His brainless fans would blindly protect him. This was another reason why Jake was so full of himself and did whatever he wanted. Jake's assistant was satisfied after hearing Kim's reply. She also had intimate relations with Jake, but she was aware that he was playing around with her. That wasn't important to her, though. She could reap the benefits if she helped him spend the night with Kim. Jake's assistant led Kim to the hotel where Jake was staying. She held out the key card to the scanner, and the door clicked open. Jake and his team are inside. They're waiting for you. I still have other things to do, so I'll be leaving first. Thank you, Kim said. She pushed open the door and walked in. She almost ran into Jake, who had just come out of the bathroom. He was topless, and a towel was wrapped around his lower half. Kim turned around and prepared to leave. "I'm sorry, I think I came at the wrong time." Jake called out to her. "Hey, wait!" Jake ran in front of Kim and blocked the door. At the same time, he seemed to be showing off his body. "Miss Kim, I'd like to spend a night with you. It's a rare opportunity, and I hope you can take me up on my offer." When Jake used this method in the past, he succeeded every time. His partner couldn't resist his toned body and his charming words. Jake was sure that Kim would not be an exception, but to his surprise, she didn't look too happy. This was different from his previous encounters, but it made her seem more fascinating than she already was. It was thrilling compared to his previous partners, who had easily taken the bait. Kim was like a rose with thorns. "What's the meaning of this, Jake?" "Miss Kim, stop pretending," Jake said with a chuckle. "You came to find me, and it's obvious what your intention was. There's no need to drag this out. I'm here to listen to your suggestions on how to improve the movie." Kim looked around the room and frowned. Besides one girl, there was no one else in the room. "I heard that your team was with you. Where are they?" "They were here just before you arrived. We finished our meeting, and most of them left. My manager stayed behind to organize the documents." Jake waved to the girl. "You've worked hard. Why don't you call it a day and go home?" The girl picked up the documents and came over. "Jake, Miss Kim, have a good time. I'll be leaving now." She was Jake's manager, and she knew what he was planning with Kim tonight because she herself had had an intimate relationship with him. After Jake's manager left, he became bold. He reached out and touched Kim's face, but she slapped his hand away. "Miss Kim, do you know how many women want to sleep with me? You should be honored that I've taken a liking to you." Kim's favorable impression of him had all but disappeared. "Please have some respect. Your personal life is none of my business. However, as your boss, I would like for you to show me the proper respect." Jake sneered. "Respect? Don't think that just because you're the boss, you're worth anything. If it weren't for me, your movies wouldn't have received this much traction." Jake would be starring in every one of Tanith Corporation's 10 movies. How successful the movies would be before and after release depended on him. Kim may be his boss, but he wasn't afraid of her. Kim wanted to refute, but if she pissed him off, this wouldn't end well. She'd heard stories of leading actors and actresses disrupting the filming before, which caused a delay in the schedule. She'd always wondered if they were true. Now that she was in the same position, those stories couldn't have been any more accurate. Jake's eyes never left Kim's body. With a smile, he said, "You're prettier when you're angry. Look, this is a win-win situation for you. First, you can have me for a night. Second, I'll use my fans and make these movies a success. What's there to lose?" Kim held back the urge to curse when she thought about how her movies were riding on Jake's shoulders. Jake misunderstood Kim's silence. He thought that she'd accepted his offer, so he reached out to touch her again. All of a sudden, the door slammed open. It was the female lead, Michelle. She glared at Kim the moment she saw her. "I can't believe you seduced the leading actor. I didn't expect the CEO of Tanith Corporation to have such a dirty and rotten private life." Kim laughed in disbelief. "I seduced him? He's the one who tricked me into coming here. If you don't believe me, you can ask him yourself." "Jake isn't that kind of person. He's a rising star with over 100 million fans. Why would he need a woman like you? It's obvious that you're the one who's interested in him because of his good looks. You've been thinking about him for a long time, haven't you?" After filming ended, Michelle couldn't stop thinking about Jake. When she thought about how he would spend a night with another woman, she had to run over and stop him. Jake knew that winning Kim over wouldn't be easy, so he played along with Michelle. He pretended to be shocked. "What are you saying, Miss Kim? You're the one who tried to get me alone in this room." Michelle pulled him into her arms and comforted him. Kim was speechless. She recalled Jake's manager. "It's not what you think. If you don't believe me, you can ask his manager. She was here when I came." Michelle took out her phone. "Okay, I'll call her and ask her to come and clarify the situation." When Jake's manager arrived, Kim said, "Please clear up the misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding? It's obvious that you came on to Jake," the manager said. Kim gave her an incredulous look. "Excuse me? But you and I both know that's not true." "I'm not lying. The minute you came in, you flirted with him and pushed me aside so you could get him alone." "Did you hear that, Miss Kim? What do you have to say for yourself?" Michelle asked. Kim narrowed her eyes. "You three are clearly setting me up." Jake sighed. "You're the one who did something shameless, but you're insisting that we're scheming against you? Your actions have already affected my reputation, so I request that you make a public apology." "It's only right," Michelle echoed. She already knew that Jake was the one who flirted with Kim, but she would side with him whether he was in the right or wrong. "You three are shameless," Kim said. "You want me to apologize to this asshole? Keep dreaming. I'll be publicizing what really happened here today." Jake was worried when Kim didn't back down. Even though the three of them were fabricating the truth, the hotel was not under their supervision. With Kim's status, it wouldn't be hard for her to get evidence. He would lose fans if she revealed this to the public. "Miss Kim, I hope you could think this over carefully," Jake's manager warned. "He's the leading actor in all 10 of your movies. If his reputation is tarnished, it'll affect the production process." The four of them were at an impasse, and Kim had no choice but to return to the company while leaving the issue unresolved. She stormed into her office and slammed her hands on the desk. "Jake needs to be replaced." "Miss Kim, that's not a good idea," the director said. "Jake has a large fan base, and his management team is also well known. If you remove him, our movies will fail before they're even released. Also, with Jake gone, the female lead, Michelle, would quit right after. The money we invested into these movies will go down the drain." "I know that," Kim snapped. She couldn't replace Jake, but she also couldn't make a public apology for something she hadn't done. When Kim went home in the evening, Stephen had already prepared dinner. He noticed that she was in a bad mood. "What's the matter? Did something happen?" Kim let out a sigh. "It's about the movies." She told him everything that happened today. Stephen slammed the table and stood up. "He must be out of his mind. Maybe it's time to make him tone it down a notch." Just when he was ready to go out and teach Jake a lesson, Kim pulled him back. She was aware of his fighting skills, and she was worried that he would beat him up. "Don't be reckless, Stephen. Jake's the leading actor in all 10 of our movies. We're relying on him to make them a success." "A scumbag like him is the male lead? I've seen 1 or 2 films with him in them, and he wasn't that great. I heard he could barely remember his lines, and he was just ad-libbing the entire time. The movie was only popular because of his good looks. It earned over $100 million. Kim, you may not know this, but there have been fans commenting in the review section that he's not a good actor," Stephen said. "I've heard about that, but the point is that Jake has over 100 million fans. Even if he's bad at acting, a majority of his fans would support him," Kim replied. "That's not necessarily true. The entertainment industry is saturated with subpar movies. A few of them have poor ratings, and the box office viewership ratings were one of the lowest. Many people have criticized them, which shows that it's not all about popularity and good looks. Acting skills matter too. The consumers are the ones who pay to watch the movies. Why would they spend money on a movie that doesn't meet their expectations? If we replace Jake with an actor with a talent for acting, even if he's not famous, as long as he does a good job, the movie will do well. For example, the main actors in Apartment of Love weren't well known, but after it was released, it became popular because of the lead's acting. Another example is Dear Tripod. It was recently released. The male lead was as popular as Jake, but because his acting wasn't up to standard, the movie received a lot of criticism. Stephen explained to her. Kim thought about it. That's true. I guess it all comes down to luck, but talent is always valued. Yeah, that's why you don't have to worry about Jake's fans. Just replace him as you originally planned. You're the boss, so how could you let a mere employee play around with you? Stephen said. I know, but if he's gone, Michelle would leave too. If both main leads leave at the same time, where am I supposed to find replacements on such short notice? It's a time-consuming process. Changing the leading actors and actresses in a movie was a serious matter. Moreover, Tanith Corporation would be releasing 10 movies, and Jake was the star in all of them. The current popularity of the movies because of Jake would take a huge blow if he was replaced. It would have a negative impact on the box office sales when the movies were released. It was easy to replace Jake, but the consequences that followed would be difficult to resolve. A rare talent is hard to find, but there are many good actors. It just so happens that the Wyvern Group is recruiting actors, and I'm in charge of it. Aren't you the director of the security department? Kim asked in confusion. Why are you recruiting actors? To help your best friend, Stephen said. The Wyvern Group is planning on venturing into the entertainment industry, and we want to work with Tanith Corporation. Jasmine didn't have time to do this herself, so she gave me the task. He was still sulking over how easy it had been for Jasmine to convince him to take on a job that had had nothing to do with being a security guard. But this isn't your expertise, right? Stephen chuckled. I'm not one to be underestimated. 2 days ago, I went to Santa Ana Film Academy and recruited a group of actors who are about to graduate. They're at the top of their class. Why don't I bring you tomorrow to take a look for a replacement? Kim nodded. All right. In any case, the 10 movies were still missing many supporting actors. Even if the students that Stephen had recruited weren't the best, she would have them play supporting roles. The next day, Stephen drove Kim to Santa Ana Film Academy. Just like what Stephen had said, the students' appearances and physiques were up to standard. Next was the acting assessment. As a member of Santa Ana Film Academy, each student was skilled, but their talents were not equal. Stephen played a random segment from a movie or TV show for the students to act out. He divided the students into 3 groups, and they would each take turns going on stage. Stephen and Kim sat in the audience and watched their performance. The students were excited and nervous to hear that the CEO of Tanith Corporation had come to watch the audition. They did their best to show Kim what they were capable of. Their performance did not disappoint Stephen. They acted out each segment according to their own interpretation and displayed their incredible talent. Kim was so immersed in the performance that she didn't come back to her senses right away. What do you think? Stephen asked with a smile. Kim snapped out of her trance and applauded them. They're pretty good. You've got a good eye for talent. Did they already... Without waiting for her to finish, Stephen said, They've already signed a contract with the Wyvern Group. Really? That was fast, Kim said. You can relax, Kim. These students are actors under the Wyvern Group. You can have them appear in whichever movie you want, Stephen replied. Okay, the Wyvern Group is Tanith Corporation's investor. That's right. What do you want to do? Kim thought for a moment. How about this? We'll give them an internship, and I'll ask the director to assign them a role. As for the leading actor and actress, I'll need to think it over. It's not an easy task to replace Jake and Michelle. I should prepare a plan first. All right, since that's what you've decided, I'll support you. Stephen called out to the students on stage and announced that they would be starring in Tanith Corporation's movies. The students were thrilled. There weren't many students who could land an acting gig right before graduation. It was also a rare opportunity to act in 10 highly anticipated movies and be able to work with famous celebrities like Jake. Having an attention-grabbing debut would make their career as actors smoother in the long run. Meanwhile, Jake and Michelle were relaxing in the shade. The director was too afraid of getting on their bad side to call them out, even though they were delaying the filming schedule. After waiting more than an hour, Jake asked his manager impatiently, "Did Kim make a public apology?" "Not yet. She didn't even come to work today." "Is she hiding from me?" "Fine. If she doesn't want to apologize or come to work, then we won't be taking part in these movies. Let's leave. Everyone, I'll treat you all to a drink." Jake waved his hand, and Michelle and the supporting actors followed him out. They walked past the director without sparing him a glance. "Are we still filming?" the cameraman asked. The director glared at him. "What's there to film? Everyone's gone." While Jake, Michelle, and the supporting actors were leaving, they saw a Toyota Alphard MPV parked on the side of the road. The door opened, and a man in a suit stepped out. With a smile, he said, "Mr. Jake, Miss Michelle, I'm from the Addams family in Washington, D.C. We would like to invite you two to a meal." Jake's face lit up upon hearing the man's background. After Miller and Felix returned to Santa Ana from Washington, D.C., they'd been busy planning out their next course of action. Neil had finally completed his training in seclusion after 30 years, and he had stated that he would personally deal with the Wyvern Group. With Neil and his son Trevor on their side, Miller and Felix couldn't stay idle. Once they returned to Santa Ana, they began to make preparations. Miller and Felix decided to make Tanith Corporation their first target because of their connection with the Wyvern Group and their successful entertainment business. While they were looking into Tanith Corporation's recent projects, they came across the actor, Jake, who had over 100 million fans. In a private room of a high-class restaurant, Miller and Felix were having a discussion with Jake, Michelle, and the supporting actors. "Jake, you have a large fan base and a good reputation. You'll be starring in 10 movies from Tanith Corporation, but Kim only offered you 50 million as compensation. Weren't you disappointed?" Felix pretended to be sorry for Jake. "You're worth way more than 50 million. Miller nodded. "In my opinion, you're worth at least 100 million. Michelle agreed. "Jake has over 100 million fans, and every product he endorses is worth $100 million. Why is Tanith Corporation paying him so little? If you ask me, they're being cheap." The supporting actors supported her statement. Their comments were enough to convince Jake. The more he thought about it, the more he also felt that his salary was too low. He deserved $100 million pay. "If I didn't meet with you today, I would have been scammed by Tanith Corporation. I'm going to find Kim and ask her to increase my pay. If it's not 100 million, I won't be starring in her films." "Don't get so excited," Felix said. "I know what kind of person Kim is. She won't agree if you suddenly ask her for so much money. Instead of working with them, why not work for us? We can afford to pay you 100 million or even 200 million. Miller and Felix were members of the Addams family. Although they couldn't be compared to the Stark family, they were still influential and part of the top 10 wealthiest families in Washington, D.C. If one worked for the Addams family, it was equivalent to stepping into the circle of elites. "I didn't know you two thought so highly of me," Jake said. "After this, I'll go to the Tanith Corporation and terminate my contract. Then I'll join Grazing Corporation." "If you decide to join us, we'll welcome you with open arms." Miller glanced at Michelle and the supporting actors. "However, I hope Miss Michelle and everyone else here will join Grazing Corporation as well. We're working on our entertainment department, and having talents like you would be a great help to us. Are any of you interested?" Michelle was the first to express her interest. The supporting actors had always gone along with Jake's decisions. Since both Jake and Michelle had agreed, they followed suit. This was exactly what Miller and Felix wanted. If they stole the male lead, the female lead, and the supporting actors, no one would be left to act in Kim's movies. "There's no need to rush things," Felix continued. "We should wait for an opportunity to ruin Tanith Corporation's reputation. While they're under fire, the public would want all of you to come to Grazing Corporation instead. The transition would be natural." Because of Jake's impromptu strike with all the other actors, the director had no choice but to wait anxiously in the studio. The staff members in charge of the venue, photography, lighting, props, and so on had made preparations for the filming scheduled for today. But none of the actors were there. Their preparations had been useless. Just as the director was pacing around in circles, Kim arrived with the actors from Santa Ana Film Academy. The director ran up to her. "Miss Kim, Jake and the others are refusing to film. For the future of Tanith Corporation, I think it would be better for you to meet their demands. Without them, our movies are doomed to fail." Kim frowned. He's going overboard when he doesn't even have the basic skill set of an actor. To think he's a popular celebrity with over 100 million fans. "What should we do?" the director asked helplessly. Kim motioned to the people behind her. "These are actors from Santa Ana Film Academy. They've passed the interview and audition with the Wyvern Group, and they're the talents of their class. Let's get them on set and have them take part in the films. Find suitable roles for them. As for the male and female leads, we'll leave them alone for now. When Jake and Michelle return, we'll continue filming." The director glanced at the actors behind Kim. Based on appearances alone, they were above average. Producing 10 movies at a time required many supporting actors, and many of the roles were still empty. "Okay, I'll take care of it. But Miss Kim, please pay more attention to Jake's request. He's the male lead." "I understand," Kim said. "For now, find supporting roles for them." The director led the actors into the studio. They were excited to work for such a capable director. They worked hard during their performances, and their scenes were completed in one take. If Jake were this good at acting, the time it takes to film one movie would be cut in half, the director said with a sigh. "It's a shame that they're young and haven't made a name for themselves yet," the assistant director said. "They're not ready for leading roles. Even if Jake's not a talented actor, his name alone is worth $1 billion. While they were chatting, Jake and Michelle came back. "What's with all the new faces?" Jake asked. The director and the other staff welcomed him back with smiles on their faces. "They're students from Santa Ana Film Academy. The Wyvern Group has personally conducted an interview and audition with them. They've joined our team." "Why? Aren't we enough? It looks like the film crew has gotten a pretty good budget, even though I've heard you complaining about it every day. We have so many people on our team now." The director wanted to give Jake a piece of his mind, but he had to hold it in. Jake was paid more than anyone else present on the set, which was understandable since he was the male lead, and he was a well-known celebrity. Compared to him, the film crew was short on funds. Couldn't he have a little more compassion for his colleagues? Jake smiled when the director kept quiet. "Since we're back, let's start filming. Us actors have to be professional, unlike some disgrace of a CEO who I can't bother to name." Jake looked around and noticed that one of the female students was his type. He perked up and asked the director, "Which role did you assign them?" Before the director could reply, Jake pointed at the female student and said, "There's a scene coming up with me and a maid. Let her play the role of a maid." The female student, Julia, was surprised when Jake selected her. "You want me to be the maid?" Jake was a popular celebrity, and she'd been his fan for the past 3 years. She never dreamed that she would be able to act alongside him. "Yes, you didn't hear wrong. I want you," Jake said. The director had worked with Jake several times in the past, and he knew what he was up to. Jake most likely wanted to take advantage of Julia. Most people on set knew about Jake's messy private life. Only those who were just starting their careers, like Julia, were foolish enough to be excited. Sure enough, while the cameras were rolling, Jake took advantage of the scene and touched Julia inappropriately. It only took 2 scenes for Julia to realize that something wasn't right. She tried to avoid him for the rest of the scenes. "Hey, why are you hiding like that?" Jake demanded. "Am I the plague or something? Don't you know how to be professional as an actor?" Julia kept quiet. She was afraid that Jake would tell the director that her performance wasn't good enough and ask him to switch her out with someone else. It was a rare opportunity to act with someone as popular as Jake. One of Julia's classmates, Gavin, spoke up. "Jake, I admire you as an actor, but during the recent scenes you filmed, I didn't sense any professionalism from you. On the contrary, you've been taking advantage of Julia." Aside from being classmates, Gavin and Julia were also a couple. Jake glanced at Gavin. "Are you questioning me? As a student who's about to graduate, what qualifications do you have to teach me a lesson? Are you a director, or are you my senior?" Julia tried to smooth things over. "Calm down. Don't take Gavin's words to heart. I'm the one who should have acted better." Jake waved his hand impatiently. "Okay, that's enough for now. Give me a cup of coffee. We've been filming this one scene for so long, and we're still not done. I'm thirsty." Julia left and poured a cup of coffee for Jake. When she came back and held it out to him, he made his hand tremble on purpose. The cup slipped through his fingers, and the coffee spilled onto his hand. "What are you doing?" Jake shouted in an exaggerated tone. "Are you trying to burn my hand?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "You say it wasn't intentional? I think you did it on purpose." Jake looked at the director. "Get rid of them right now." "Miss Kim brought them here. I have no right to fire them," the director said. "So you're saying you'll be letting them be, right? A supporting actor harmed the male lead intentionally, but you're telling me to endure it? I think these people bribed their way in. Since this is the case, I won't be acting anymore." Jake gave Michelle a meaningful look, and she realized he wanted her to make things difficult for them. She stood up and said, "You're being disrespectful to Jake. I'm disappointed in all of you. I'll be protesting with him." When the supporting actors who had attended the discussion with Miller and Felix saw what was happening, they immediately grasped the situation. They echoed their agreement and clamored to call it quits. The director was at a loss. If one or two people quit, then so be it. It wasn't a big deal. But if all of these people quit at the same time, no one would be around to film. "Jake, I think this is a misunderstanding," the director said. "Why don't you ask Julia for an apology and forgive her? You're the leading actor. It won't be good for us if you walk away so suddenly." Jake laughed. "From what you're saying, it sounds like you're threatening me. Let me make this clear. I won't be filming today, and I won't be coming back in the future either. I was only paid $50 million for these movies. Tanith Corporation can't even afford to pay me. What's the point in staying?" Jake shook his hand, and droplets of coffee splattered to the floor. He turned around and walked away. Michelle and the supporting actors followed him. Jake had caused a commotion twice in a single day. The director was losing his patience. If it weren't for the movies, he would have given him a good scolding. "What should we do?" the assistant director asked. "What else can we do? We'll have to report this to Miss Kim." The director ran off to find her. Coincidentally, Stephen was at Tanith Corporation as well. He was asking Kim about how the actors from Santa Ana Film Academy were doing. Kim slammed her hands on her desk after hearing the director's report. "What did you say? Did Jake and the others leave again? This is crossing the line." "Miss Kim, I think it's best if you step forward and ask Jake and the others to come back," the director suggested. "With everyone gone, it's impossible to film the movie." Stephen interrupted. "I'm sure you're aware of what kind of person Jake is by now. If she goes after them, that's the same as acknowledging them as the bosses." Kim agreed. "I'm the CEO of Tanith Corporation, and you're one of the executives. We can't let them push us around. They'll only disrespect us more and make unreasonable demands. Haven't you seen their behavior so far?" "I understand, Miss Kim, but what are we going to do about the films?" the director asked. These 10 movies would be a reflection of the director's annual performance. He'd also invested several million and was anticipating their release. If the movies never made it to completion, his money would be wasted. "I've seen Jake and Michelle act before," Stephen said. "They're not that great. They've only got their looks to brag about. That's the only reason they've attracted fans. To be honest, if we're talking about real talent, Julia, Gavin, and the rest of the students fit the bill." He's right, Kim said. After what had happened at the hotel yesterday, she'd gone home and browsed several movies and TV shows that Jake and Michelle had starred in. Their acting was lackluster and lousy. Kim leveled the director with a confident gaze. I have a bold suggestion. We should let Gavin and Julia take Jake's and Michelle's places as the leading actors. Gavin and Julia are good-looking, and they're professional. Their acting is even better. What do you think? They're not bad options, the director said. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I don't think it'll be a problem. The main issue is that our promotional materials have already been released. If we change the male lead and female lead now, it might ruin the film's success. That's not true, Stephen argued. I admit that Jake is famous. His face alone is enough to attract fans and bring in revenue. But the movie industry is changing all the time, and the standards of movie critics have improved in recent years. If we let Jake be the male lead, his fame will ensure that the first movie sells well, but it won't give Tanith Corporation a good reputation. Once our reputation is set, it'll be the standard for the rest of the 9 movies, and our sales will plummet. The director gave Stephen a thumbs up. Mr. Adams, you've really seen through the current market. Kim smiled when she saw the director praising Stephen. However, the director continued, even though that's the case, changing the leading actors for students is just as risky. Our company has invested a lot of money into these films. We can't let our investment go to waste. You're wrong again, Stephen said with a smile. Hiring student actors instead of well-known celebrities for the role of the male lead and the female lead for 10 hit movies could be considered deviating from the trend. Wouldn't that garner a lot of attention as well? This would be Gavin and Julia's first time acting as the male and female lead. While they're not pros, they do have a talent for acting, and their skills are better than Jake's and Michelle's. When our first movie is released, the sales won't be as high, but it will give us a good reputation. Subsequent releases for the rest of the 9 movies will achieve a higher revenue than if we were to let Jake and Michelle stay. The director was enlightened after hearing Stephen's explanation. Okay, I'm confident we can make this work. Miss Kim, I accept your bold suggestion. Let Gavin and Julia be the leading actor and actress. Gavin and Julia were pleasantly surprised when they received the news that they were to take on the male and female lead roles. Both of them came from humble backgrounds, and their families didn't have much money. Their parents saved up what they could to enroll them in Santa Ana Film Academy. They hoped that one day, Gavin and Julie would make a name for themselves in the entertainment industry and change their lives for the better. Getting an opportunity for a leading role right before graduation was the starting point for their acting career. While the sudden change in lead actors caused hassles like editing previously recorded scenes or removing them entirely, the director wasn't at all bothered. Jake and Michelle's actions weren't that great to begin with. Having these scenes cut out would be a major improvement in the overall quality of the movie. Filming started again with Julia and Gavin as the main leads, and the result was better than the director had expected. First, Julia and Gavin were both newcomers, so they didn't complain and question things like Jake and Michelle had. Second, they both studied at Santa Ana Film Academy, so they were knowledgeable when it came to theater performances. Third, this was their first time playing a male and female lead role, so they were more diligent than ever. After a day of filming, all scenes were recorded in one take. The director never asked them to redo the scene. In addition, their performance completely outclassed Jake's and Michelle's. The only drawback was that they weren't as popular. But after Stephen's convincing speech, the director had already thought it through. As long as the storyline and acting were good, it was possible to bring in more fans and increase sales. Because of Gavin and Julia's excellent performance, the filming progressed at a fast pace. Jake and Michelle needed a week, while Gavin and Julia finished in 3 days. Their efficiency had increased by half. There was no one more satisfied with the changes than the director. It's time to make Gavin and Julia the official main leads, Kim said after watching their performance. She was impressed with their acting. When we announce that Jake and Michelle are no longer working with us, it'll cause a stir in public opinion, Stephen added. Let's take this chance to promote Gavin and Julia and make them famous. This way, there will be a 50% chance our movies will turn out successful. All right, it's decided then, Kim said. Tanith Corporation posted a notice announcing Gavin and Julia as the new leading actors. Kim was soft-hearted and didn't add insult to injury. The reason she gave for replacing Jake and Michelle was that their agency didn't have enough manpower, so the company could only move forward with new actors. As expected, the moment this announcement was posted, it became the talk of the city. Everyone on the streets and alleyways discussed Jake and Michelle's replacement. Celebrities had always been a hot topic. After Stephen read Kim's announcement, he found some people and asked them to expose insider news that Jake and Michelle were replaced because they had harassed a student actress. Public opinion shifted, and Jake and Michelle became the center of criticism. Jake thought that Kim would come to Grazing Corporation, crying and begging him to come back. That was why he would refuse and humiliate her in public. To Jake's surprise, 3 days passed without a single call from Tanith Corporation. He sent Michelle to find more information. "How did it go?" Jake asked when Michelle returned. She had a stormy expression on her face. "After we left, Kim asked Gavin and Julia to replace us as the new male and female lead." "They're two newbies. How could they make a film a hit? Kim is ridiculous." "Yeah, that's like saying they're a better fit for the movie than us," Michelle said. When Miller and Felix arrived, they noticed the hostility in the atmosphere. "Hey, why are you so angry?" Felix asked. "Tanith Corporation found a replacement leading actor," Jake said. "That's not all," Felix said leisurely. "They issued a notice stating that they're canceling their contract with you. The reason they gave is that the number of actors your agency provided is too low. But someone leaked insider information and said that Tanith Corporation withdrew your contract because you harassed a new actress on set." "That's ridiculous," Jake retorted. "What are they talking about? That makes no sense." "Don't get worked up," Felix said with a smile. "Maybe this is a good thing." "What do you mean by that?" Jake asked in confusion. Felix didn't give him a direct answer. "As a celebrity with a large fan base, what do you think the entertainment industry cares about the most?" "Garnering attention? Stirring up the hype?" "You got it. Tanith Corporation must have leaked your harassment scandal on purpose. If they can stir up trouble, why can't we do the same?" Felix said. "What do you plan to do?" Jake asked. "You plan to send out your public relations team to clarify the situation?" "What is there to clarify? Right now, you're in the spotlight. Although the public is criticizing you, they'll become suspicious if you stay silent. That's where those brainless fans of yours come in. They won't tolerate their idol being slandered. I believe that even if you don't do anything, your fans will stand up for you." "I see. I didn't think of it like that," Jake said. "You're impressive. But what should we do next?" "We'll also be producing 10 movies," Felix said. Jake stared at him in disbelief. Tanith Corporation would be releasing 10 movies. Now, Grazing Corporation would also be releasing 10 movies. Wasn't that too big of a stretch? The media and entertainment industry was a lucrative business, but it was no easy feat to produce a movie. In addition to finding suitable actors, they also needed to search for the right director and a good script. Maybe this was possible for Grazing Corporation. Jake nodded in understanding. "So, you've been preparing to enter the entertainment industry. Everyone here supports your new business endeavor." Jake was excited when he thought about the 100 million salaries that Felix had promised him. 10 movies would be 1 billion. Michelle and the supporting actors were also anticipating Felix's next words. "Yes, our company has already made preparations. Unfortunately, we're only at the first step. Although I've found good actors like you, it's far from enough. We don't have directors or scripts yet." Jake was at a loss for words. Felix wanted to produce 10 movies, but not only was he missing the directors, but he also didn't have scripts prepared. Even if he was from the Addams family, wasn't this a scam? Was Felix messing around with him, Michelle, and the supporting actors? Felix laughed as if he had seen through Jake's thoughts. Do you think I'm trying to trick you? Even though we don't have the scripts now, it's only a matter of time before they're in our hands. It depends on how capable you are, Jake. I don't understand. Since we've stolen talented actors like everyone here today, why can't we do the same for directors and scripts? But for us to do that, we'll have to rely on you, Felix explained. I get it now, Jake exclaimed. Why didn't I think of that? If Tanith Corporation's movies become ours, I and other actors can continue from where we left off. Don't worry, Mr. Felix. I won't disappoint you. Early in the morning, Kim and Stephen went to the filming site together. As the day passed, Gavin and Julia's performance improved significantly. Kim gave them words of encouragement after their impressive performance. We'll do our best, Miss Kim, Gavin and Julia said. Determination shone in their eyes. Stephen brought over 2 cups of tea. Have a seat, Kim. Everyone's taking a break. Kim sat under the umbrella, drinking her cup of tea and scrolling through her phone. A certain news article caught her attention. 3 gold medal writers who had originally planned to work with Tanith Corporation had transferred to Grazing Corporation. They would also be producing 10 movies. What's wrong? Stephen asked, noticing the surprise on her face. Kim held out her phone to show him the news article. I didn't think Jake, Michelle, and the rest of the actors would join Grazing Corporation. They even took 3 of our gold medal writers. Stephen frowned. That means we won't be able to produce all 10 movies like we originally planned. It would be a violation of intellectual property rights. There were strict regulations when it came to intellectual property rights. For example, if you wanted to listen to a song that only lasted a minute, you could listen to the first 10 seconds for free, but you'd have to pay for the rest of the song. The song purchased on this particular music app couldn't be played on any other app. Even if you were a VIP this month and were allowed to access the entire song, if you didn't pay your membership fee next month, then you would be restricted to 10 seconds again. Replacing popular celebrities like Jake and Michelle with novice actors like Gavin and Julia was a huge risk, but it could still be done. However, without scripts, the movies couldn't be filmed, and their investment would be wasted. What should we do, Stephen? Kim asked anxiously. Stephen thought it over. If we can't produce 10 movies, then we won't. Besides, I think the viewers would get bored of watching 10 movies starring the same male and female lead. They might lose interest when they're nearing the end of the series. What I mean is, why don't we set a smaller goal of 5 movies instead? The directors and the actors will have more motivation and energy to complete the filming. That's not a bad idea. And if we condense the original script that lasts 10 movies into 5, the content would still be 80 to 90% similar to each other. It would violate intellectual property rights. Stephen smiled. Who said we were going to use the original script? We can change it. It's not that easy, Kim said. A good script is often the most important part of producing the movie. Who would want to watch a movie with a bad storyline? Don't worry, leave the script to me, Stephen said confidently. Let the film crew and the actors take a break for a few days. They can resume filming after I get a new script. All right, for now, that's all we can do. Kim went over and announced the disappointing news. Everyone was stunned, especially Gavin and Julia. They felt like they'd been splashed with a bucket of cold water. But since things had come to this point, they could only suspend filming and wait for further news from Kim.